It is hard to believe that it has been nearly 4 years since Jedi Fallen Order hit the market, but here we are. It's April 2023, and we've got Jedi Survivor to play. Or at least some of us have Jedi Survivor to play. Many more than that are stuck waiting for the launch issues to be resolved. Unfortunately, crashes and inexplicably bad FPS issues plague this game for most players. And that is intensely disappointing because this game is absolutely phenomenal. So let's take a look at it and figure out what makes it so good for those of us who are fortunate enough to be able to play it right now, and whether or not it's worth it for you to pick up whenever it does get fixed. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters? Come one, come all. GL Jake is here with another game review. I'm here today, like I said, to talk to you guys about Jedi Survivor. I'm absolutely in love with this game myself. I've been able to play it no problem, or at least with not very many problems. I'm sorry to hear that not everybody has had that experience, but regardless, we are here today to discuss it. And how better to discuss it than by starting with the performance. Let's get this fat ass elephant out of the room. The performance for this game, not good. It's not good on PC. It's not good on consoles. It's bad overall, and I'm really disappointed by this. I'm fortunate enough to be playing through the game on a 7900 XT with 20 gigs of VRAM, so I think that's why I'm running into not very many issues myself, but still, I repeatedly ran into zones that struggle to maintain even 60 frames for me playing through the game on 1440p. The game suffers from lots of frame stuttering, which is especially prevalent and annoying in cutscenes. This game almost exclusively uses engine-based, like, seamless cutscenes, like meaning the gameplay and the cutscenes take place in the same type of environment. And all that means is that the cutscenes are just as laggy as the gameplay, which can actually have a big impact on how the game is able to tell its story, which is really disappointing. Now, like I said, I didn't run into very many issues myself, but I have read that performance is better on AMD cards than NVIDIA cards, and I also know that performance is better on consoles than it is on PC, although it still does have issues. But if you're playing on a console, you have less to worry about in this department. I would still do your research, though, for sure. If you're playing on PC, you're probably going to have issues. There's not much we can do about that at this point. I would wait to see what updates are coming down the pipeline before spending your money on this game. If you're running a high-end rig and want to test your luck, you might get lucky like I did, but there's no promises there, so I wouldn't count on it. Point is, at the end of the day, I understand a lot of people are having issues with this game, and it's not an acceptable way to release a game, but I have to review the game based on the way I played it. I didn't have very many issues, so I will continue to, review and critique this game as I was able to play it performance-wise. Once you push past the performance issues, you're left with a video game that looks absolutely stunning. This game features much bigger and more open locations than the first game, and it does an absolutely magnificent job using the scale of these locations to its advantage. Everything just feels so vast and immense. The best example I found of this is the way that this massive Lucrehulk core towers in the distance over the main map you play on. It looks so awesome. The creature design is great too. There are tons of little critters you're going to find to fight that look like they belong just perfectly in Star Wars. They did a great job adapting battle droids to the pirate faction that they fight for in the game as well. Overall, they just did an absolutely wonderful job in the graphics and art department for this game. It's disappointing that a lot of people right now aren't able to experience this the way that it's intended due to the performance issues, but I loved the time I spent just looking at this game and digging around and finding all the little details that the devs left for us. Beyond that, this game sounds immaculate. As you would expect, the voice acting is done brilliantly. We get excellent performances for all the main characters in this game, be it heroes or villains, and it just makes you feel connected to these characters in an even deeper way than you did in Fallen Order, and I just love that. Ambient sounds are handled really well too. The sounds of a ship flying above or animals calling in the distance really solidifies your immersion in this game.
Looks like the Mantis is back in action.
But the most incredible part by far of the sound design is the way that it impacts combat. So for starters, each lightsaber crystal has its own sound effects. And the level of attention to detail to the lore there is very impressive, but it also makes slicing through enemies feel so damn good. Each slash with your saber just feels so impactful and devastating because it's accompanied by such amazing sound work. The combat in Survivor didn't need much help being fun and engaging, but the sound design team showed up and did this fantastic work anyway. So speaking of the combat, as you can see, it's very reminiscent of Fallen Order, and this is totally okay in my book. This game is meant to be an action-adventure, kind of Souls-like game, and they've all but completely mastered the way that combat should feel in that style of game. The game features 5 unique saber stances as opposed to Fallen Order's 3, but the 2 that were added being like the crossguard kind of Kylo Ren looking ass lightsaber and the blaster stances, in my opinion, weren't very fun to use and in many cases weren't that effective. The blaster is cool for a bit, but if I found that it was just mostly effective in dealing with enemies that also have a blaster, and it's like, if they have a blaster, I can just reflect that and kill them, so there's no point. That's just how I found it. I could just be bad at the game. I definitely am bad at the game. And the crossguard stance feels really cool, but I just found that the attacks took too long to get off for me to be able to use it. It's like you're wielding like a medieval claymore. It's just super heavy and strong attacks. I love this. It feels cool, but in practice, I didn't find that it worked all that well. You can pick 2 stances and swap between them as you play, and I found myself mostly sticking with just the single saber and dual wield. Just the classic, but I found that to be the most effective for me. Despite the fact that I found the additional stances to be a little bit underwhelming, I still had a ton of fun with the stances that I did decide to use. The game really captures that feeling of being a Jedi. I have never played another game with anywhere near as good an execution of that concept before. It's just absolutely remarkable. Every slice with your lightsaber, every block, every force push and pull lends itself to this awesome feeling of power, of being a Jedi. I love it. New to the series, Survivor includes human dismemberment, which I am obviously super down with, although I will say I still wish this system was better. We were chopping the heads and arms and legs off stormtroopers in The Force Unleashed 2 almost 15 years ago. I don't understand why this hasn't improved over time, but it hasn't, and I think for the third game, we just gotta do a little bit better. But I still found that chopping the arms off of scout troopers made the combat feel that much more satisfying, so I am glad that they included this in this game for sure. Survivor features an even more in-depth leveling system than the first game. Each stance has its own skill tree, which I imagine will make this game very replayable, which is awesome. And branching off of this, I was super happy to see that you don't need to relearn how to do everything that you leveled up in the first game. There's no like amnesia moment. Cal just starts off with all the skills and abilities you would have wanted him to, so you don't have to relearn how to force pull or double jump or any crap like that, which I really appreciated. The game is focused on the continued development of Cal Kestis, so you just feel more powerful in this game than you did in the first game. And I really like that, but there is an issue with that. This game is remarkably easier than Fallen Order. It just doesn't throw as much of a challenge at you. Because you have so much more potential power in this game, you can easily get through way more enemies than you could before, and I'd say this game, if anything, throws less enemies at you than Fallen Order did. Now, to some players, this will come as a breath of fresh air. They're not going to mind, but to others, especially Souls-like fans, this is going to be a disappointment. I sit somewhere in the middle myself. I don't really mind that it's easy to just chop through battle droids like you would expect it to be. I do feel, though, that the boss battles, generally speaking anyway, were way easier than they should have been. And I played through the game on Jedi Knight, which is like the normal difficulty, and I guess I could have just cranked that up a bit, but either way, you're going to find this game to be easier than the first one. So if you're looking for a challenge, I would just start off on Jedi Master or above when it comes to the difficulty. Survivor also introduces some really awesome movement mechanics. You get a grappling hook, which is awesome. It adds an element of verticality that I really enjoyed, and you eventually upgrade this grappling hook, which allows you to perch and leap off of certain objects, which adds even more mobility. You eventually get a dash ability too, which is really cool. I love all of these new abilities. It makes the game feel like a true true platformer a lot of the time. I always love it when games find a way to expand a player's toolset, especially when it comes to mobility, and Respawn clearly spent some time thinking outside of the box here to make that happen. While I did enjoy the platforming aspects of the game, it can sometimes feel a little bit underdeveloped, even with the additional movement mechanics. It feels too forced at times, in my opinion. As an example, you run into a lot of situations where the only way forward is through wall running on conveniently placed floating walls. You also use some really odd, like Mario-esque jumping mechanics throughout the game, like jumping off a wall repeatedly to climb up it. It's not that the platforming isn't fun, it just feels like it's a little bit out of place and half-baked. I also wanted to make mention of the way that fall damage works in this game, because it pissed me off. It's a pretty binary system. Either you can jump down and take no damage, or you'll jump down and die. And this is a major piss off. It's confounding. I don't get it. I constantly found myself trying and failing to properly gauge whether I could traverse a certain area of the map by jumping down to another area. You can double jump, so you kind of just logically think you could jump down and then double jump right before you hit the ground to negate the fall damage. And you just die. Even though you should absolutely not die, you'll just die. It's ridiculous. I just found myself dying to fall damage over and over and over again because I couldn't figure out where I could jump down, and I hated it. And my suggestion to Respawn, simple solution, remove fall damage from this game. You're a Jedi. Why is there fall damage? Just take it out. I get it if you jump off the map, but if I'm just jumping from here to there, why is there fall damage? Have you ever seen a Jedi before? I've never seen a Jedi die to fall damage. I got one last thing to complain about here, and then we'll move on from this. Survivor features this mechanic where you have these buddies that follow you around in a bunch of the missions. And these buddies, for whatever reason, have abilities that you don't. So you have to say, "Hey, buddy, pretty please, will you come cut this rope for me so I can climb up there with you? Please, please." I hate this. Why are we doing this? It's like an escort mission on crack. Nobody wants this shit. I don't understand. I love this game, but I don't understand why game developers are like, yo, can we just put the most unfun dog shit mechanic in our game for no reason? Let's do it, boys. Woo! What's going on here? I don't understand it. It's like, oh, please, Marin, will you come attach this thingy over there so I can grapple it? Please, please. Fuck off.
What took you so long?
Oh, just hanging out.
So we are going to talk about the story a little bit. I'm not going to spoil anything. We're going to talk about it quickly, few quick words on it from a general scope. As with the first game, the story is filled with awesome characters, with great writing and voice acting. It's all set in these really epic and diverse locations. Cal Kestis is back with a nice beard, and he's got the personality to go along with it. He's like a snarky badass in this game, in contrast to the first game where he was snarky, but he was definitely clueless and stupid. He's not like that anymore, which is awesome. I really like this version of Cal, and it makes him feel like he's developed so far after the events of Fallen Order. And just in general, this game is just so epic and cinematic. It has all these really long and well-executed cutscenes that, along with the gameplay, tell a story as compelling as any other Star Wars movie has. And I really do mean that. I think that the Jedi series will go down as one of the best Star Wars stories we've ever experienced. Obviously, it's possible that the third game, that almost certainly is going to come, will be trash. But I don't think that's going to happen, and if it's anything like these first two games, this trilogy will stick in the hearts of Star Wars fans for decades. Cal Kestis is an amazing character. All the characters, whether they're good or evil, that he meets along his journey are just as compelling as any other in the Star Wars universe. Respawn does an incredible job with creating these exciting worlds for us to explore, and it's also true to how Star Wars is supposed to feel. It's a massive breath of fresh air to be playing this game. Star Wars has had so many flops and blunders and failures in the past decade, and I'm just so happy that we finally have awesome stories like this to experience. The thing that I love the most about Star Wars is the way that it sparks your imagination with its world building. From the barren dune sea on Tatooine to the planet-sized city of Coruscant, the Star Wars universe has kept my attention for like my entire life. I get the sense that the developers at Respawn are the same way I am, and many of you probably are too. The environments that Jedi Survivor places you in are fucking incredible, simply put. You spend some time on Coruscant in this game, and I absolutely love it. I couldn't get enough of it. It's a shame. It's kind of a short segment of the game, and it's disappointing because it's so good. And I hope that we get more of that in future games, in Jedi, whatever game it is. I love Coruscant. I want to see more of Coruscant. And the level of detail they were able to accomplish with that world and every other world in the game had me in awe. I love it. It's so good. You go to this planet Kobo, which is like an arid planet with some pretty wild, cool stuff to see. I don't want to spoil it directly. You might catch some bits and pieces of it in the footage, but I wasn't expecting to see the stuff that we got to see on Kobo. It's awesome. My only critique of the locations that you go to in this game is that for the most part, they're all desert worlds. Why does Star Wars media love sand? I'm tired of sand. I hate sand. It gets everywhere. It goes all over my Star Wars. Get that shit out of here. Let's get some cool planets that aren't sandy. Thank you very much. I don't know what the obsession is, but we gotta stop doing it. However, I loved the worlds in this game, sand or not. It's easy to forget about because of how good they are and how well they constructed these places for us to play in. And Respawn flexes their love for Star Wars lore in so many other places in this game. They throw a ton of love towards the prequel trilogy, and I was really excited about that. Besides the fact that you spend a good chunk of your time fighting battle droids, you get to see a lot of nice Clone Wars stuff playing through this game. Again, I won't directly spoil anything, but you might catch a glimpse or two of it if you look close enough in the footage, and I just love it. It's awesome stuff to see. I also really love the touch that they put the Z95 Headhunter in this game, and you get to see it up close and personal. I think the only other time you get to see this ship is in Star Wars Empire at War. I can't think of anywhere else that this thing has appeared, and it just shows that the people behind this game really love Star Wars as much as we do. Most fans aren't probably going to know the difference, but people who are really into it are going to appreciate touches like that. And it's the designer's passion for the IP, the fact that they actually care about Star Wars. That's the reason why that their work on it is received so well and why it's so good. If everything else that I've already talked about wasn't quite enough for you, the customization in this game solidifies this as the best goddamn Star Wars game that has ever been made. I'm sorry, Knights of the Old Republic fans, this game takes the cake. Fuck me, the customization is insane. It's overwhelming. For starters, you can customize Cal in so many ways that I can't even explain it. There are a bunch of different hair and beard options for him, and there's more clothing options than a goddamn JC Penney. It's wild. Each clothing item comes in a bunch of different colorways, so you can do whatever you want with this guy. It's awesome, from changing the color of his undershirt. You can change the color of his undershirt. It's crazy. With this level of customization, nobody's Cal Kestis is going to look the same as someone else's, and that is awesome. And then you can customize BD1, and this is way more in depth than it needed to be, but I love that. There are literally hundreds of different colors and materials you can pick from when customizing this droid, and then you can swap out his parts modularly to create, I'm guessing, like millions of different combinations of colors and parts. All of this for a tiny droid that sits on your back the whole game. I can't get enough of the attention to detail that is provided to us here. It's incredible. And last but absolutely not least, we will talk about customizing your lightsaber. This is by far the best weapon customization system I have ever used in any video game, and it isn't close. You can customize everything about your lightsaber. Everything. Like, what does the button to turn it on look like? Do you want your grip to be made of boiled bantha leather? No. Oh, how about Beskar? Oh, not good enough for you? You want it to be made out of orange silk? Well, we have some orange silk. You can do whatever you want, and I love it. You can do all of the same stuff to your blaster too, and just the amount of love and passion and effort that went into this system is incredible, and it speaks volumes about the team that's behind this game. And all these customization options need to be unlocked by finding these crates around the map and opening them. You can buy a limited amount of these items in shops with these different trinkets that you find around the map, but the majority of them will need to be found. And what this means is that, at least for me, I'll need to play through this game 2 or 3 more times to unlock all of this stuff. And making a customization system that is so in-depth to the point that I think it's almost perfect is an insanely fun and rewarding way to get your players out there exploring the world you created. And what an awesome world to explore. This type of stuff is usually annoying in games, like needing to find this and that and the other thing, but it's a privilege in Jedi Survivor. And I think I'll have more fun playing through this game a second time around than I did the first time, which is not something I can say about nearly any other game.
Wait, why did you all die?
Jedi Survivor is a masterpiece. It's an absolutely wonderful game that captures the Star Wars feeling so many of us crave in a perfect way. Don't worry if you're not a Star Wars fan, because there is an incredible story and awesome gameplay here for you to enjoy. But if you are a Star Wars fan, you're in for a goddamn treat here, folks. Once they fix the game, anyway. It took me just under 25 hours to complete the main story while doing a few side quests. If you're a completionist, you'll get way more than that out of it. How Long to Beat has this around 20 to 50 hours, depending on how much you get done. 50 hours being like a completionist run. You could get even more than that out of the game with multiple playthroughs and testing out different builds and stuff. There's a lot of content here, and if you're a completionist, jump on it as soon as you can. There are just a few minor flaws with this game that force it to stop just short of being perfect. And then, of course, there's the issues with the performance. But if at the time of watching this video, Jedi Survivor has had its issues ironed out, I would say that you're doing yourself a massive disservice by not playing this game. And if at the moment you own a piece of hardware that can play this game smoothly, you should be playing it right now instead of watching this video. If neither of those things describe you, play this game as soon as one of them does. It is a truly incredible game. I'm really disappointed to see that its legacy will be at least somewhat marred with these brutal launch issues, and I understand that this is not an acceptable way to launch the game, but I think that the quality of the product here will make those issues easy to forget about pretty quickly for you once you start playing it. You will never play another game that makes you feel like an actual Jedi quite like this one does. So play Jedi Survivor as soon as it's fixed and playable on whatever system you own. Rest assured, your patience will be rewarded. Do you think these things have cocks? No cock. This guy got it. Look at his little cock bulge. Yo, they got little cock bulges. Jeez.